told Dr. Aldridge. Now he's got a house built up right on the old place where I was born.
Oh, for Pete's sake.
Dr. Aldridge, he's a heart doctor.
Yeah.
He's a good one too, and a nice fellow. And I tell him a lot of times, he said, I told him, I said, I said, my quickness, all this is better than it was 10 years ago. He said, that proves the valves is working.
Right, good.
See, when the oxygen...
It's just amazing what they can do now.
The oxygen wasn't getting to the brain.
Yeah.
But it proves now that the valves is...
Well, if I had developed 10 years ago what I've got now, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
We've made that much progress.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And as Dr. Medina says, they're coming out with new things every day.
Every day. And they have come up with so much advancement. If they'd have had the know-how they've got now and the stuff to work with they've got now, my daddy lived more than 43 years.
Well, my daddy died at 67.
My daddy died with what was called leakage of the heart. That's what they diagnosed it as being. And his doctors back then, and I don't remember this, you do, but you know what they put that man on for? The only thing they know to do is to put him on whiskey. And it was diluted that he just took a certain amount of it a day. He didn't drink it. I mean, what he had to do is just take the amount they told him to take 3 times a day. And that's what he did. And he died because they didn't know what to do. And now his brother, there was 2 in that
Excuse me a
family.
minute, did you need this lamp on?
No, it's,
I thought it was hard on his eyes.
that's fine.
Gary and
Thank you.
Tony. And Tony come up with absolutely the same thing my daddy died with.
Is that right?
His brother. And you know what they did? They wound up putting him in a new heart. His brother's
You got a
got,
transplant.
In 1991, heart transplant.
and it's a heart transplant, and they did that surgery on him quicker than they did the surgery on me, whether he replaced the valve or not.
I tell you, they had to do it pretty fast.
It's just kind of like connecting
But
the water,
it's wonderful.
new
That's
water in
wonderful.
an old car, you know.
Well, let's
But you
get
know-
back on Flat Rock history a minute. I want to know if you've ever heard the story, you know where carriage entrance is, the side entrance to the church.
Yeah.
And you know there's a grave right there by the walk leading into the church. The grave of James Brown, an Englishman, who came with the Berries. And some years ago, they put a picket fence around it, an iron fence. But the grave it's a vault, it stands up about so high. And I've been told that when the church was open only in the summer, that the moonshiners found that if they lifted the slab off that grave, they could put the jugs down inside, and the customers would come and get.
Or now, I don't remember.
You ever heard that?
I hadn't heard that one, but you know, I remember when they just had one services in the summertime.
Yes.
It was only summertime when they...
One service, and the church was by no means full.
Yeah.
Now we have 2 services every Sunday, and
Yeah,
in the summer
oh
we
yeah,
have 3.
yeah. Oh, I remember when they just had the one service.
Well, I've got 30 people in that cemetery, close relatives, so I feel like it belongs to me.
Yeah, well, certainly. Yes,
When I walk in, I feel like it's mine.
Well,
When I
sure.
get inside, then I have to share with other people.
There's a closeness, there's something about it that you just can't explain.
There's,
It's
when
unexplainable.
you walk into that church, you just feel reverent right there. It's
Well, you know, my mom and my dad's buried at Mount Olive,
Mhm.
in the Mount Olive Cemetery, and it's just like, It means something to me even go to the cemetery.
Family cemetery.
Because there's my mom, my dad,
Yeah.
and then there's my grandmother Osteen, my granddaddy Osteen, and uncles and aunts, and my little brother's buried there.
Yeah.
Uncle Euless Ballard.
And, Uncle Euless is buried in, over in
Well,
Oakdale.
at St. George, you know, they've got King's Road. Everybody on that road, as you go up as you come down the driveway, it'd be on the right. Those are all King brothers and their wives. And there's
Is that
scattered-
right? And that's
scattered
kings of your family? That's really special.
Well,
Louis, when you were talking about your grandfather pumping the water with the ram pump, go into a little more detail if you would, where that water was coming
come right down the side of the mountain.
from, okay? But
There was a huge spring there, one of the biggest I believe I've ever seen.
Natural spring.
The natural spring that came out of there, and he had a trough built. You see, then you buy stuff now, but he made him a trough. I guess that thing must have been 20 or 30 foot long. Put it on a downgrade there, and that's what operated the pump. Ram.
and the house that you were raised in, where was it in relationship to that spring?
The what?
The house that you were born in?
Well,
Where
it,
was it?
it was over the hill from there, back over.
All right.
Yeah.
And on the other side of the hill, was there another spring?
Lord, yeah, there was springs all over that mountain. There's two springs at our old home place up there.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, we had two springs there, and you know, they was a honeysuckle, little old-timey honeysuckle there at the spring, and you could smell that thing all the way to the house, you know. And when it bloomed, it had that good smell. And I told, and you know that boy, mine Jerry, went up there and got he got one of those bushes and brought it down there and set it out at the house. And I didn't even know he'd done it. And I went to church one morning over there, and I walked by there, and I smelled that thing, and on there, right there, that bush was. And I said something to Jerry. I said, Jerry, I said, we got a bush down there. I said, one of them, it must have come from old home place, just like it. He says, it is one of them. He took that thing out, I didn't know about it.
Isn't that amazing?
So, I don't know, them springs is still there. Me and Mr. Lauder went up there. And them springs is the only thing, and one oak tree that I could
I
recognize.
feel like that's that same large oak tree that was in that photograph from 1978. Back behind the corn crib there was a big tree. I don't know if you remember that in the picture, but I'm just wondering if that same tree is the one you're speaking of that's still there.
But I think that, really what made Flat Rock what it really was, it was one of the most lovable places that I ever knew of.
Everybody got along so well together.
Everybody loved everybody, and they didn't have people fuming and fussing and growling about.
They also,
Now, just like the trees down there at Flat Rock at the old school. Old James Hunter, once he cut down some of them trees, and some of them ought to have been cut, I guess, so enough. But I never heard as much said about them trees in my life as about trees. And
well, what I can't understand is why she has the back of a building facing the highway.
I don't know, but you know, there was one tree.
Hold on just a moment, Louis, let her get the tape
You gotta turn
changed
off.
around there.
They was
Take just a moment for her to get started now, so hold on just a moment.
Fire away.
They was one of those trees planted by the walkway that went up. Now she's made it a driveway. But on the right-hand side as you went up to the school from the highway, there was a maple tree out there. huge maple. And that tree was set out in the dedication of the new school down there. When we went from that old school over into the new school. And that maple was set out in the dedication. I'm pretty sure it was a dedication of the school. And the guys that set that maple tree out are all gone. I mean, there's Edison Jones. I don't know if you ever knew Edison. There's Edison Jones and Curtis Justice and Joe Perry and Fred Thomas. I remember them 4 guys that set that tree out. And it growed and it growed and it growed, and it was a standing. And that was one of the trees they talked about her cutting down there. So I'm risen, not too often.
Did they mention that it was?
That, and there was no mention about it, nothing about
They
it.
don't know.
That I know of, and that tree, it might not have meant anything to nobody but me, I don't know.
But you knew the history of it.
I knew the history of it, and I looked at that tree every time I went to the post office,
Yeah.
that old maple. And I'm gonna see Jane, I don't know, but I'm gonna go see her, and if she's got any of that tree piled up back there where she put all that stuff, where the old school used to sit, I want a hunk of it.
You
know.
ought to chop. You can
Make me a little table or something up there.
Yeah. You ought to
It
have.
might not mean nothing to nobody but me,
Well,
but
she probably has turned all that lumber over to
she had
the-
all that stuff piled up back there. I went back there and looked one time. And, of course, she was always nice to me. I can't say that I don't like her because I do.
Well, she was very
She's
smiling,
very
very
nice, and
sleepy when she left the post office the other day.
She told me, she told me this, she says, now, she said, I want to tell you something. She says, any time you want to walk anywhere over this property over here, you do it. Just come on, anywhere you want to go. And says, if anybody says anything to you about you being up there, says, you tell them to call me.
Good for her.
That's
I'm glad
what
to
she
hear
told me.
something nice about her.
I thought that was pretty doggone